Guys, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. The next time you're looking to add the newest wrestling figures to your lineup, you've got to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Started by collectors, for collectors around the globe, Wrestling Collector Shop has been serving fans the latest and greatest in wrestling action figures since 2002. Whether you're looking for basics, elites, or ultimates, Wrestling Collector Shop should be your first stop the next time you're looking for wrestling figures. So make sure to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com and use code SWOGGLE to save yourself 10% on your order. Again, that's 10% off with code SWOGGLE only at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Going Postl, brought to you by our awesome friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. I'm Dylan, Muppets Most Wanted, Leprechaun Origins, 6 WrestleManias. You know the drill. You know the drill by now. Guys, today's episode was originally supposed to be a small talk with Jonathan Coachman, but during this crazy week, holiday season, scheduling conflicts happened. But fear not, that episode and that small talk will come out next week, December 4th. 2 episodes in 2 weeks. We're giving you an awesome retro rewind episode, as you saw it by the title of this episode. We're looking back at all things Finley, my relationship with Fit, how it started, how it became literally a father-son dichotomy. It's a big word. I think I used that right. But we still wanted, like I said, to put an episode out for you guys today. So today's all about Finley. As always, follow me on all forms of social media at Dylan Postl. You can also follow this podcast at Going Postl Pod. YouTube.com/Dylan Postl for all things video diaries, unboxings, all that jazz. Or if you're listening to this show and you want to watch the free video version, youtube.com/Dylan. Check myself out for merch, dylanpostl.com or prowrestlingtees.com/Swoggle for all things me, and PodXchange.shop for exclusive merch for this show and for all of our shows on PodXchange. Also, check out the Patreon. Would love your support over on Patreon. Patreon.com/PodXchange. That is Patreon.com/PodXchange. Love your support. Thank you all for supporting the Patreon. If you already are, we cannot thank you enough. Guys, the next Whatnot stream, Wednesday, December 11th. If you haven't joined us for a Whatnot stream yet, you're missing out. And now, if you haven't signed up for Whatnot, head over to swoggleauction.com and get $10 free to use on Whatnot. A free $10 credit just for signing up over at swoggleauction.com. We're going to have signed figures. Not just me, but other people's signed figures. We're going to have rare items. It's going to be awesome. Wednesday, December 11th. Join us over on Whatnot. And finally, again, make sure to head over to patreon.com/PodXchange for exclusive shows, ad-free episodes, and a whole lot more. Again, that is patreon.com/PodXchange, PodXchange. That's enough. This hullabaloo. Let's head over to the Retro Rewind episode, all things Finley. But before we do, ad break. Are you a fan of Disney, Pixar, Jurassic Park, The Office, or even WWE? Or maybe you just want a sleek and comfortable patterned shirt? Then you need to check out Roosevelts.com. RSVLTS.com today. Roosevelts makes the most eye-catching and comfortable shirts going today. Whether it's button-ups or polos or hoodies or even hats and everything in between, Roosevelt's truly has something for everyone. Made for those with the love of sports, pop culture, and so much more. and above all else, having a kick-ass time. This clothing is for the bold and fun, for those who dare mighty things. Roosevelts.com. Check them out.
May 26th, 3 days before my birthday. So to be honest, and I say this in the book, Life is Short and So Am I, available at dylanpostl.com. I wasn't a fan of Finley's because I've always kind of hated the technical wrestling. It's never been my thing ever. And then I remembered him from the hardcore division where he almost lost his leg, which is in the junkyard match, which is insane to watch it back. So I remembered him from the WCW hardcore division more than anything. And then you see the graphics of him coming in, and then I hear from Ken Anderson that they need a midget for an extra. So I do my extra work in March, right before WrestleMania. I do my extra work for in a backstage segment that never ended up airing. And then I hear they're trying out little people for a leprechaun for Finley. Fast forward a bit, I find out later that this is actually an idea he wanted to do in WCW, which is very WCW-ish. And it makes complete sense there. But then it didn't happen there. So when he went to WWE, he was doing his thing, but he was kind of floundering a bit, I would say. I mean, he was in Money in the Bank, which again, I was really pissed off that him and Ric Flair were in Money in the Bank. But yet, in that Money in the Bank, they killed it. And Finley always killed it in Money in the Banks because he'll take stupid things. And so I think it was just that he was kind of floundering and didn't want to fall by the wayside. And so I think he went to Vince with the idea of a leprechaun. So it was kind of off to the races, and they started trying out midgets for the role. The day I found out I got hired was unreal. It was absolutely unreal. Then I fly to California, I believe. Bakersfield? That sounds right to me. It's probably not. But I originally heard it was supposed to happen at the Judgment Day pay-per-view. It did not, because Vince said more people will see it on SmackDown the next week, or 2 days later when we record it. Fine by me. And he explains then at SmackDown what the role is going to be. I live under the ring. I don't talk. This, that, and the other thing. Finley's essentially... There wasn't really a role between him and I. Like what we were. I was just his guy. And that was it. But it was always him and I, Finley and I always... It was kind of like an instant bond we formed. And I don't know why. I truly don't. I truly don't know why we got so close so quickly. I think he knew how much I wanted to be there and how much I gave a shit. And he respected that. But I don't know why. But him and I always got along together. And it was, 2 weeks later, I was going on an international tour. And it was almost right away then where I felt like a father role, I felt like a fatherly role from him. And I was like his son all the time throughout. And it's kind of funny that we did the storyline and this, that, and the other thing, but I always felt like his child.
Now, what's it like? Because you go a long time. I think it's like a little over a year. Correct me if I'm wrong. A little over a year that you're actually not named. Like you don't have a name for a really long time. You're the little bastard. You're Mini Finley. You're Finley's sidekick. Like you don't actually get named Hornswoggle for quite some time.
Was it that long? Yeah, you know what? It was because it was No Way Out. It was No Way Out 07.
So what's it like working without a name for like a year and change?
Signing autographs as Little Bastard was quite the thing. I have a program. There's an official WWE program with my name as that. Yeah. So
Damn.
that was real. And it was one of those things where, okay, I mean, call me anything. I'm on TV. I didn't care.
I would say you're just happy to be there.
Very happy to be there. And then it was like it clicked. Like, God damn it, we can't call him that anymore. We can't put that on toys. So, I mean, thank God. And it was literally like the next day I had the name of Hornswoggle.
What's it like to be slammed by Finley onto other wrestlers?
So it was always this funny thing. Like we always called it like the hand through the dick slam, because you just picked me up from the shoulder and then through the dick and just tossed me. And that's what we did every week, every house show, every TV. And it was just funny because there'd be times he would play it off on house shows like and I'm very heavy. But even then I was the lightest I've ever been at that point, but I'm still heavy because it's like a medicine ball, because I can't give much leverage at my height. And he would slam me and pretend like he threw out his back every time. Man, it was the best. And if like, I remember there was a loop where we worked, I think it was Gunner Scott, and he threw me on Gunner Scott, like way harder than we probably should have. But it was so funny. Every time sometimes he would just throw me so hard. It's one of those things that still gets brought up, like by fans. Oh, and then he would just kick you on. So he knew what he was doing. He knew it would stand out. And that's just, man, he's legitimately one of the smartest humans in all of wrestling. And it for sure is, it's the truth. He made women's wrestling. I truly feel that way. We'd be still doing bra and panties matches or no wrestling at all from women if it weren't for Finley.
Do you want to touch briefly on your debut and the attacking of Paul Burchill?
I just remember like Finley, or like Vince and Fit both saying, just keep going after him and make Fit pull you off. Like, just keep going. And and so I did. I literally, he had to pull me off. And I was like, I'm going to get as much TV time as I can, because I know I'm going right back into the ring. So I wanted to show as much face as I could. I remember working Rey Mysterio on house shows and taking a 619. I don't
What's
remember.
that like?
I mean, it's the best. I was a huge Rey Mysterio fan.
What's your sell for the 619?
The biggest ever.
I was going to say, because I imagine that you probably explode off those ropes.
Loved it. Every time. I tried to be Scott Hall with the stunner. Every time.
Amazing. Yeah.
Fit and Ray, man, they worked so many times too, and it was always so good. A lot of 6-mans involving Ray, or regular tags involving Ray. It was usually like Ray and Batista or Ray and Undertaker against like Finley and Booker a lot.
And there's another one that comes up, I believe, a little later. It's Fit and Regal against Batista and Lashley. And then there's the double spear finish.
Yep.
Yeah. So speaking of Regal, let's talk about the court.
Oh yeah. So with the Regal match, so right there we go into Finley and Regal onto the pay-per-view. I believe it was originally supposed to be a 3-way, and Benoit got hurt. I could be wrong. Was that Benoit?
No, about Bobby Lashley, and then
Bobby Lashley. That's what it was.
And then it ends up being Regal
versus Finley.
Versus Finley.
Yes. So I had a spot in that match where I was going to take Regal's boot off. Yes. Fit always did the spot where he moved the apron. The guy gets caught in the apron and beats him up. I was going to then untie Regal's boot and remove it. This is live on pay-per-view, mind you. No camera cuts. His boot is knotted up. And now I can't untie and unlace his boot. And now I'm ripping his shoestrings on my finger. After it, my finger just started bleeding. You could see blood on my shirt because my finger is just gushing blood from it ripping these boot strings. And he's like the whole time going, "What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?" Looking at me like in the apron. And I couldn't do anything. And I just keep yelling, "It's tied really bad. I don't know. I'm so sorry." And I'm just ripping at these shoelaces. And it was like when I debuted and I just kept, during the rehearsal, kept coming out at the wrong time. Now it's my first pay-per-view and I'm messing up my spot. And it's one and done. It's going to be one and done. I know it. But man, it worked finally. And we get to the back and he's like, "What happened?" I had to explain to him your boot was knotted up and I couldn't do anything about it. So again, my finger's gushing blood after these two guys. But I can't say anything about that because these two guys just headbutted and punched each other in the face.
I was going to say, they just went to war.
Yeah, exactly.
So with you popping up from the ring and sliding the shillelagh.
So Elimination Chamber 07, 08. There's an Elimination Chamber that Finley's in when he takes that disgusting chokeslam on the grating, on the outside grating from Undertaker.
Okay.
But there was I threw the shillelagh there. But the chamber hugs the corners so much, like so tight, that I didn't think I was going to be able to get my head out. And I was like, this is going to blow the whole spot. So as the chamber is coming down, I'm like pushing the bottom with my feet as much as I can to create as much space as I can between the corner post and the chamber part, because there was this part that flips up and I pop my head through and I throw it. And I was like, if I don't get enough room, I'm not going to be able to show face. It's just gonna be like a little hand throwing it. So man, that's just another one of those things where I randomly, like, I remember to this day, like it was yesterday, like, oh man, freaking out because of how close the chamber was.
What was the process of you getting from backstage to the ring?
So that's probably like legitimately my most asked question when I do interviews.
I had a feeling that it probably comes up a lot.
How long have you been under the ring? My record was 7 hours. So TV tapings or live Raws, I had a monitor and a mat and everything. Overseas tours, nothing. Literally nothing. I would just sleep. I would just try to sleep, or I bring my PSP underneath the ring and I would just play that. Yeah, I would, but like overseas arenas, I would usually go out before the show started, or before doors, before they let anyone in, because they couldn't cut the lights right or something. And finally, like over time, I think they realized I was getting sick of it doing that. And then we would just, a lot of the time, we would get a lot, like the stagehands. All the stagehands would meet in Gorilla. They would throw a video on the screen and have me in like all black hoodie or like a curtain. Or one time, like for a tour, we did it in one of the road cases. They pushed a road case and they would tip it over to the side, and I would pop out and go under.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it worked great. And I mean, the first the people, if it was just me in with a sheet over or all black, and the stagehands around me, the people hugging the rail might see one of the 30 people there might see it, but it's fine. Everyone else is watching the video screen.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Regal. We need to talk about what I'm assuming a GIF that has been circulated to you multiple times, you humping William Regal's leg.
Did I do that?
Oh, yeah, you did.
There's a lot of things I forget in my career. That's at the top of the list. I do not remember doing that at all. And yeah, like I'm going to watch this video now, even though I hate watching me, and just to see how many things I did that I have no recollection of. So going with that, I'm sure we're going to get to it, but there's a random one. So I didn't talk. Hornswoggle doesn't talk, obviously.
Yes.
Only talks when Vince randomly wants him to say things. There's the feud with the Boogeymen, Finley and the Boogeymen,
Yes.
and I tell him I'm scared of little people. Again, I'm told many times, you don't talk. You don't talk. You don't talk. Except when he wants me to say, I'm scared of little people. And then Finley throws me in a trash bin. And then there was another one where it was on St. Patrick's Day. And the leprechaun has to be booked on St. Patrick's Day, of course.
Of course.
And I'm drinking Guinness in the back. And I say, Happy St. Patrick's Day. Because even though I don't talk, I can say Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Let's touch on Bobby Lashley.
Finley was always the guy that whenever they were going to bring someone new to try out on TV or hey, we're gonna give this guy a run. Finley was always the guy that would work them for months on house shows. I mean, we had Lashley, we had Boogeyman so many times, we had Khali so many times, Mark Henry, we had Swagger when he first came up, Gunnar Scott, Ryan Braddock, Casey James, literally you name them, and Finley worked them for house show. Probably it would usually be like 4 or 5 house show loops, and then Fit would give the thumbs up or thumbs in the middle or thumbs down. And but it always happened every time. Guys would come back from injury, they'd work with Fit, and he was kind of it was almost like on the job training with him. And it in front of a crowd on a live show. It was cool to see, and cool to see what worked and what didn't.
So then eventually Finley wins the United States Championship. What's it like to be the guy working with the champion?
So that was the point where I was like, man, are we baby faces? Because he won it, and then he worked Regal, and that was like heel, but Finley's kind of the babyface because it was with me. And that was kind of the transition I started to feel like we were going, but it still didn't happen for a while. It still took a bit for it to happen. But man, it was awesome. It was cool, and I knew it meant a lot to Fit that the company finally believed in him enough to do that. So I know it meant a lot to him. We did so many tags, like I was saying before, we did so many tags with Booker and Fit and Regal on house shows. So many 6-mans between that and like it would be Taker, Batista, Ray. Always. I remember, man, so many of those pairings. Or like an MVP, it would be Booker, Fit, and MVP against Batista, Kane, and Ray.
Now, are you in the conversations for the plannings for those matches, or is it just like, and then, hey, at this point, this is where you pop in, and then we're back to the match?
No, I would always be in the sit downs about what we were going to do. And Finley always involved me. Like that's one thing, he always wanted me involved. Every time he went to bat, no matter what, whether it be me just popping out and throwing a shillelagh, me grabbing a leg, he always, or something big, he always wanted me involved. Every time he goes, there's no sense to having you with me if we're not going to use you. And he truly believed that all the time.
Let's talk about Batista. Give me your best Batista entrance. Yeah, awesome.
Love it.
You've done that so many times on this. Guys, if you're not watching the video version of this podcast, you just did yourself a disservice. Make sure you go and seek that out. You've done it so many times, I feel like I had to actually formally request it at least once.
I love the Batista entrance so much. It makes me so happy. If you don't get fired up for the Batista entrance, like I would be under the ring doing the Batista while he was doing it. Especially like on house shows, because I could see through the curtain, like through the ring skirt.
Yeah.
So I knew when it was happening. I was like, yeah, this is fucking happening. Loved it.
Amazing.
Every time.
Amazing.
Batista's book, he talks about Finley a lot and how much Finley meant to him. And they always had a very, very good relationship. Very good relationship, Batista and Fit did.
At Armageddon, that's the
tag match.
Yep, it's Finley and King Booker face Batista And
Seen it.
I was just say, and one man, you may have heard of him, WWE champion at the time, Mr. John Cena.
Big match John, they call it. No.
The big match John. And then the Boogeyman starts a little after that. Take us through that.
So we weren't baby faces yet at all. Because now we're leading up to WrestleMania 23.
Yes.
Okay. I thought we were already past that. Okay. Again, Finley gets the task of, hey, Boogeyman isn't great. We need to make Boogeyman great or passable. Who are we going to put him with? Finley. There were so many times I saw Fit get so frustrated. House shows especially. Because it was like they were doing the same match on the house shows. And it was something still would get flubbed. And it was frustrating to watch too on my end. So I was like, he's trying so hard. He's trying so hard. Fit is trying and he's making it through, but man, some of them we'd get to the back or we'd be like going to the back. Well, that sucked. Okay, all right. Mini Boogeyman was deathly afraid of Fit. Little Boogeyman was a nuisance to us at times. He would just be late. He would show up late. He would always be on his cell phone constantly. Like it was the worst to try to find him and stuff. And so, man, I remember that. It was either the tag match on pay-per-view or the SmackDown after tag where, yeah, he booted him directly in the mush.
Finley earns his spot in the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 23. That happens April 1st, 2007. Then
we have another match with Kennedy.
The Kennedy feud comes back, and then
what did I do now? Whose leg did I hump?
Oh, no. Then everything with Jamie Noble starts.
Oh, that's right then.
Yeah. So it's Kennedy wins the match. There's the feud with Kennedy, and then you win the championship. Finley's feud goes to Kane.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. Yep. So here's a funny thing. Here's a Finley's feuds thing. Every night on the live event, we would do a spot. Kane would be down. Bang. Finley would get me from under the ring. He'd toss me in, and then Kane would sit up and meet me face to face, and I would put the hat that I had on Kane. I would tap him on the shoulder, and he would give me a big Kane punch, and I'd go up, and he'd finish the match, like his whole comeback and everything, with the hat on. We have so many photos of Kane chokeslamming Finley with the hat on hysterically because he's realizing I have a Hornswoggle hat on my head. It's when he would just wear that stupid hat every time.
So there's a tag match. It's
Domino?
No, it's Finley, Khali lose to Batista and Kane. And then you've got Kane beating Finley at SummerSlam. And then
that's the one where Ray came back and Hunter came back, I believe.
And then you have the Belfast Brawl match between Finley and Kane.
I liked that match. I remember liking that match.
Then is the feud. Then Finley's feud with Ray.
Which that went for a while too.
Yes.
That ended, I believe, in a stretcher match.
Yes, it did.
Wow.
Let's talk about Khali.
So how weird, in all reality, how weird is that whole thing? Like, I wasn't involved with Finley, yet I was. But yet I'm a babyface, and he's still a heel. Like, it's very odd to me that we still did house shows together, and I still helped him, and this, that, and the other thing. But yet we weren't on TV together. That's very odd to me. And we asked, I remember asking during that time, because Finley was an agent or producer at the time too still, like, hey, Jamie Noble's on this live event. Why don't I just wrestle Jamie Noble? And it was like, Fit always asked, and it was always like, no, not going to happen. Okay. Then it goes into me and Khali.
Yep. And then at Armageddon.
Yep. And that was the Shaq match, I remember.
Yes.
Because then we were baby faces.
So what happens is you have the thing with Kali, then
Yep.
Finley comes to rescue you, and at Armageddon, Finley gets put into the match with Kali and wins after you hit him with the shillelagh. Do you remember the finish at Armageddon?
Nope.
Okay.
It's just more proof that these are things I should probably remember. Hitting a giant man in the groin.
So then the Rumble happens.
That was where I was in the Rumble, and then Finley Finley comes in to save me, and they disqualify him from the Royal Rumble. And it's one of those things, like, even I went, disqualified in a Royal Rumble? I don't know about that. Okay. All right. But then, like, well, right there, when he saved me from Kali, that's really the babyface turn.
Yeah.
In all reality, that's all it was. And then we were just baby faces. I remember there was a SmackDown where we wrestled Deuce and Domino. There was that, but it was just babyface stuff.
After that is the No Way Out Elimination Chamber.
That's the one where I could barely get the shillelagh in my head through. And then, like, watching it back, listeners, if you haven't watched that or in a while, watch it. No Way Out 07. Finley is in this elimination chamber, and he takes the most horrendous choke slam on the outside metal grating. It's not the padded grating that they have now. That's how Finley gets eliminated. Yeah. But man, it just I after, like, when they were talking it out, I remember we took a break, and I said to him, "Why are you taking that?" He goes, "Gotta get eliminated somehow. It's gonna hurt." He goes, Yeah, it's gonna. And then he took it. And he goes, "That was so bad." And I remember him like getting in the back. That's the first time I ever saw him sell something, because he's such a hard ass. But I remember seeing him sell for that.
And then,
I talk about this in the book quite a bit. And Bruce Pritchard told me this years later. Actually, after I was released, I saw him at one of his Something to Wrestle With live, and it was supposed to be Vince versus Finley at that WrestleMania. And Vince didn't feel comfortable with Finley's promos. Like, he didn't feel confident enough in Finley's promos. So he changed it to JBL versus Finley. And I was just like, man, can you imagine? That would have been such a marquee match against Vince on Mania. It would have been unreal. And then, like, I think it was either supposed to be like the Eddie thing, like the Eddie Ray thing, like for custody of me or something like that. But then it turned into JBL Finley. And I also heard it was possibly going to be Finley versus Vince for the title. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy to look back on. There was a promo with Finley, like they gave him mic time, and he was wearing just his t-shirt, like his green Finley t-shirt that he didn't get much merch, but he had this Finley t-shirt, and I was like, this is very weird to see him in, like, because you always saw him in gear or in a suit, but to see him in a t-shirt and jeans doing a promo on TV was very, very odd to me. But man, that whole, I remember watching. I watched that cage match back, and the emotion that Finley gave in that was so nuts. It was literally like, and that was, I will say, that was like peak time period where I did feel like he was a father figure. Like, took care of me on the road, overseas tours, all of that, and he really, really took care of me like a father figure. And it was awesome. But then the emotion in that segment of him just caring for me and not wanting to see me get hurt, man, it was like, this is real. It made it so real in that, and that's what that segment really needed.
And then they have another Belfast Brawl match, JBL, that's the Mania match. And then
they move Matt Hardy, they move Finley over to ECW. Now we start working with the Jack Swaggers, the Mark Henrys, with Tony Atlas.
So, it says that you challenge Miz and Morrison, then Finley challenges for the ECW championship.
With Mark Henry, right?
Mark Henry, Matt Hardy, Chavo Guerrero, and The Miz at Unforgiven.
So this is where it's kind of confusing to me because we're moved to ECW, yet we're doing this thing with the SmackDown Tag Champs, yet we're in a SmackDown Tag Title match at the Bash. It's very odd, but brand-wise, it doesn't make any sense. Logistics, it makes complete sense because ECW was always taped with SmackDown.
Yeah.
Brand-wise, it makes no sense. But then we also did a lot with Tyson Kidd and Talia towards the end of our ECW run. But the Finley feuds, going with that, man, Mark Henry and Tony Atlas, that's another one. We worked them, it seemed like 7 years of live events. This was like, and also during this time, there's pictures of it online where we called it the Titanic pose. Finley and I would go on the buckles and spread our arms like Titanic. He would be on the bottom buckle and I would be on the middle, and we'd be outspread. And every time we got down, he would move the shillelagh and whack me in the head every time. It was just a joke he played. But then you'd see my arms outstretched, and I would look to see which hand the shillelagh was in of his, and I would like go like this and cover my head. He would physically force my hand out into the Titanic pose even more, and I'm just shaking, and we're both standing on the buckles for now like 45 seconds because I don't want to get down. And every time he would get me. And this is also the time where I wasn't underneath the ring all the time. That kind of started at WrestleMania 24 when I came back, where I wasn't underneath the ring for Finley's matches. I was just ringside, which is awesome. During this time, especially like the Mark Henry matches or the Jack Swagger matches, there was... I don't know how it started, but Finley was sitting down. He was in the ring in a rear chin lock or something. And I go, what is he doing? And then he switches hands and I literally, in the middle of the match, are you playing basketball? And he's dribbling an air basketball. And as he's getting up, now he dribbles between his leg into the other hand and he moves it. And I was like, this is the best. So now we go to the next night where he's in a hold and I start dribbling on the apron, like on the floor, but on the apron. And I pass it to him and he goes, and this is in a hold. He's doing this while in a hold. We're now dribbling and passing a basketball back and forth. The next night, randomly, he hits like a tennis. He has a tennis racket and he hits a ball. And I go, ooh. I look past me like it went over my head. And now we'd play badminton. And that while he's literally every night, this was a 10-day tour. It morphed into every night would be a different sport. We pitched baseball and he would hit it. We did badminton. We did ping pong. We did, everything. And it was Justin Roberts was the ring announcer. So he was always ringside sitting there for the house shows. And he would be dying laughing. He goes, what are you doing? And man, it was just so much fun. And no one knew what we were doing except us. People just thought he was selling in the hold. Didn't realize he was dribbling a fake basketball. We'd get to the back and we'd just be belly laughing. And then Swagger kind of caught on and he would be laughing while he's got Finley in this rear chin lock. He would be laughing because he's seeing us hit baseballs back and forth. Man, yeah, it was a time. We did an overseas tour, and the end of the overseas tour was us, the draft. And draft happens. I get moved to Raw. He stays on ECW. We do the tour, and because it was like in the middle of a tour, and we do the tour, and like it was the final night of him and I, and it was like emotional. And they made Finley sing. The Irish Eyes Are Smiling. Like they made him sing it, and he goes, "I don't know these words," and he had to sing to me, and it was. But like even with that, I remember like being very sad. Because this was the last time we were ever working together. It was like a very sad, like, I remember hugging him and like tearing up because I was like, oh man, my dad, I'm going, it's literally like a child moving out for the first time. And I literally hugged him and I said, I don't want to go. And because he knew I didn't. But he knew the plan for me on Raw. The plan for me was going to be I was going to manage Sheamus. Sheamus was going to debut on Raw, and I was going to manage him as this big babyface. Never happened. And I remember us hugging in the middle of the ring to close that ECW episode, I think, and him just saying, "You're going to be fine. You're going to do great. Everything's going to be okay." And it was like literally like a kid moving out of onto college. And it was the scary man. I that's one of those things I remember so much, like it was yesterday. Oh, here's a big thing. He was the first person I told that Landon was going to be born. We were in Europe on tour, and I get a message from my best friend Weimer, and he goes, "Hey, call Kim, Landon's mom. Call Kim right away." Okay, so I call her, and she goes, "Hey, are you all right? Everything okay?" I said, "Yep, I'm good." She goes, "You're going to be a dad." Hang up. Fully hang up on her. I walk to the back where the monitor is, and like Fit must have seen that I was like wide-eyed or something. That something wasn't right. He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "Tell me what's going on." Like a father, like me catching Landon in something. He goes, "Tell me what's going on." I said, "I'm going to be a dad." And he like drops to a knee and gives me the biggest hug, and he starts crying, like crying. And I was like, I don't want this. No, I'm not ready, because I wasn't ready to have a kid. And he goes, "This is the best day of your life. Like, this is the start of the greatest time of your life. I promise." He goes, "You're going to be amazing." And like, he was so happy for me. And I just kept saying to him, "Why are you happy?" But yeah, he was the first person I told. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And it's not that I sought him out. He was the first person I ran into in the hallway, and it just happened to be him. It was, man, I told my fake dad before I told my real dad. And like, I'm very close, like his kids, David and his other daughter and son, I'm very close with them, and I call them my brothers and sisters. I'm very close with his wife. She like, every time she would always say, "Your room is waiting at the house whenever you want to come down." And they had a room like for me, and his kids always called it Dylan's room. Their other brother that never lived there.
Guys, let's talk about Mad Cat Beard Care. They make my beard feel soft, silky smooth, and they can do the same for yours. A one-man show since 2019, Mad Cat uses a portion of their sales to care for local stray cats. That money covers their medical bills and finds them safe spaces and forever homes. Their products are made to order with vitamins and all-natural oils that promote strong, healthy hair and moisturize your skin as well. They've got exclusive scents for myself, as well as other wrestlers like my good pal Brian Myers, Mr. Kennedy, and Ring of Honor legend Delirious. Make sure to check out all of their scents, along with my Swoggle scent, which has notes of lavender and sage. I absolutely love this scent. And guys, we've got an exclusive offer for listeners of Going Postl. Use promo code SWOGGLED to save yourself 15% on your orders only at madcatbeardcare.com. That is Swoggled with a D on the end, to save yourself 15% on your orders at madcatbeardcare.com. Guys, that's 15% with promo code SWOGGLed, and remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard. Thank you guys for joining us for an archive replay of my run with Finley. Talked everything, our relationship, dug deep into how the relationship became what it was, some funny business that we always had together. I truly view him, like I said so many times in the episode, as a father figure. I talk about it all the time. I text him every Father's Day. Yeah, it's just such a relationship that I really, really hold dear to my heart. So, hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. At Dylan Postl, at Going Postl Pod, youtube.com/Dylan Postl for the absolutely free version, video version of this podcast right here that you're listening to, youtube.com/Dylan Postl. And don't forget, next week, December 4th, Small Talk, Jonathan Coachman, ESPN analyst, Raw GM, and just an all-out buddy of mine. A nice small talk next Wednesday, December 4th. See you then.